Okay, so supposedly we're streaming. We're going to do we're watching Gardener's World together. That's what's happening. This could be epically fun and potentially humorous. I've already watched a little bit, and it's feeling fun already. I did watch like the first 50 seconds or so just to get a feel for this episode. Okay. I've watched Gardener's World. I think the first time I watched it was probably around 2005 or 6. That was the first time that a gardening show from Europe, I was aware of one. I had seen the Victory Garden in the United States, which was on PBS back in the day, and Gardening by the Yard with Paul James, who I thought was a lot of fun. I think he at least brought like a real levity to gardening, which hadn't been really done much over the years. Everyone in the lane of gardening was always like deeply fucking serious. So it always slightly was a relief to see Paul James be humorous oftentimes about gardening. Then Gardener's World got on my radar around that same time. And Gardener's World had been on forever. So Jeff Hamilton had been the host, and he tragically passed away. And then there was a period, I think Alan Tishmarsh was a host for a while, and they went through a lot of people. Monty Don was in a collab at one point with Carol Klein and Joe. I don't like that much. I'm not a Joe person at all. So the show went from that to now we're at Longmeadow, essentially. Gardener's World is Longmeadow, Monty Don's garden on a weekly basis. So I'm going to put myself on just so I can see this. Is this thing working? It even sounds good. Good job by me. I'll just keep that over here so I can see the chat. So now it's like we're at Longmeadow Garden 24/7. And I've thought about that actually here at Natchez Glen. That as I create content here, that shit could get boring year after year after year. So the show has always, in the case of Gardener's World, it's always had segments where they go visit gardens, they visit gardeners. But then there was a moment in 2020 during the pandemic where, they were having struggles. Monty was laying a lot of cable at that time, deep in the cable laying business. We'll get in. But then there was a moment where home gardeners were sending in videos. And in the past, I had enjoyed that. Over the years, there were times where Gardener's World would go to a nursery, a garden, and they wouldn't have a host. They would actually just interview the production team, the gardener who created the nursery or the garden. And then that would tell the story, and they, in their own words, would tell it. I always thought that was fucking awesome. I loved those segments. So when they went to this format of having people send in content, I thought that could be real fire, Liddy. But I think what it's turned into is too much of like the same. A lot of them, quite frankly, and I'm here for this to some degree, have become like human interest stories. Okay, cool. But if I wanted to watch human interest, I'd put on like Discovery Channel or some shit and see some family that's doing weird shit. I do turn into Gardener's World as the only piece of content that has been on broadcast television for gardening. I literally do. So when I've noticed over the last, I'd say it probably started more in the like 2015-16 range, the show started to feel immensely dumbed down to me consistently. And my friend Doug, who's watched it for a long time, on and off with me, we've joked about it over the years, he's felt the same. Like, we looked at it. He actually texted me one day and he's like, do you watch Gardener's World anymore? Because it's not feeling like Gardener's World anymore. There were segments in the past. They would go to an Irish Germanica breeder in France or in the UK, and they would explore the history of that person, the history of that plant, and tell that story, I think, in a little more full, exactly, buddy, in a more full way. Now, I feel like a little, like it's just not fun, like a Paul James kind of vibe. It's still got a bit of a heavy hand to it. It's a little serious, but it's just showing elementary stuff over and over and over and over and over again. So I don't know who it appeals to. I guess Gardener's World now is for new gardeners. I guess Gardener's World is just there to attract people. But I don't know if the style that it does it in does. I think the style that it is produced with is become the internet, like blogs. Buddy got out this morning on the stream. You all may have seen it. He escaped, got out of the house. He was trying to kill everything out there. He threatened to kill 7 mammals, 2 lizards, 14 birds, and a couple of people on bicycles. He's pretty fired up. So if you hear him, no, he's going through some things. As Gardener's World has made this change, it really hasn't spoken to me. Now, I'm Natchez Glenn, I'm Steve, I do all this Natchez Glenny stuff. So maybe there are people it speaks to. So I am open in this watch along today of actually figuring out if we think this show is good or not. Like, I'm down. I could be completely mesmerized by what we're about to see here and love the show. But I'm not sure we're going to land there, but I'm open to it. I really wish they would go back to being a show that embraces, because the show is beautifully shot. I'm going to talk the show up now. It's shot on high-end Canon cameras. I think they use probably a Canon C500. The team that produces it has been producing it forever. Monty is an extremely talented host. He gets in and out of things breezily. He talks in a very relaxed, beautifully English, gentlemanly way. The show has featured some spectacular gardens, spectacular gardeners. It has done so much positive for gardening over the years. That's why I feel strongly about it sometimes, that it may have gone to something new. And maybe people would say it's changed and evolved. I would say maybe something different, like I did. But I do see all of the things in the show that make the show fantastic. And maybe we'll get a glimpse of this today when we start watching it. Maybe we'll see. I've already got this set up. We're look at us. We're like professional Twitch streamers and things now. I think I'm prepared. I'm prepared for anything on this stream. So let's do this. I'm gonna get ready to buckle in here. I'm gonna go grab a water, and I think we're gonna get into a little Montague action. Buddy's fired up. I'm fired up. I have an Team England Umbro jacket on. It's literally got God Save the Queen on the edge of the hood. So this is a Gardener's World vibe. I mean, I'm gonna go get some water with a piece of mint in it. I mean, let's be prepared with hydration. We can't be on here talking about Gardener's World without hydration at the very least. Okay. Damn. Also, should mention, I don't know if Carol Klein is on this episode or not, but we've talked a little bit about Carol over the years. I love Carol Klein. I like Carol's enthusiasm. It's a little much. I'm with everybody, but it's also, I get it. I have met people like Carol before in the nursery industry, which is where Carol started. Carol started in the nursery horticulture side of gardening. And you go into their greenhouse, and they are so excited about something. And at first, you're a little like, whoa, chill. But they really are. So Carol's made appearances in old Gardener's Worlds. back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Carol used to come on the show sometimes as a representative to talk about like nurseries. I think she was at one of the Chelsea Flower shows, and she went on television for that. And she was very reserved. And then I think like television producers got to her and were like, you know how you are when you're in the greenhouse, when you're just like, oh my God, have you seen this new Panicum Brigadum? Like that. I think they told her just do that all the time. And she may have landed there. But her garden is beautiful. If you've ever seen Carol Klein's garden, there's an entire series on Channel 5 in the UK that covers it. It's beautifully done, very just lush and drippy and soft and elegant, but there's trees and structure. Very meadow cottage, beautiful. So I will say Carol and Monty both are real gardeners, right? This isn't sort of like American gardening television where the people who are on there were hosting something else like 4 months ago. And they're like, hey, welcome back. We're glad you can join us. This spring, so many people are talking to us about the rain. Right, Carol? Well, I'm glad that you said that, Jeff, because people sure have. The rain has been crazy, y'all. So we visited Aquascapes. They're a place that's going to be able to tell you how to deal with your rain. And it's not as difficult as you'd think. So most of American gardening television has been like that. It's been rooted in some kind of weird, like, here's a company that will pay us some money that we'll go visit and we'll try to pretend like it's about landscaping or gardening or some word like that. Having people like Carol and Monty is fucking important. Having actual people that really garden, that really get it, I do see tremendous value in. And I guess what I would wish for is the same thing I'm trying to create here at Natchez Glen, which is just let the people who know those things just show you those things in the way they feel might be comfortable for them. I hope Monty is happy doing Gardener's World. I will share with you, I am a massive consumer of all Monty Don content. I've listened to every book, at least, if not read. I've watched every piece of content, and I've listened to every podcast he's ever been on. There are times where I hear Monty being frustrated with the way the production of Gardener's World works. Now, that just might be a creative person with creative problems, but I would guess that maybe there are some issues that he may not be wanting to share as publicly as maybe he once did. I'm going to press the play button at some point. I have to put on the headset. We got to get real prepared for this. This is just going to be a big deal, I feel. Little tripod off in the distance, just chilling. I believe this episode is like 59 minutes. Is that correct? Yeah, 59 minutes. So this might take us about 7 hours. Okay, this might take 7 hours. Gonna start a little early just because of that. Let's get into this. I mean, let's just go. Headsets on and everything. You guys tell me in the chat if this all audio plays out well. I'll listen over here on the phone too.
Hello, welcome.
Hey, Monty. I have to listen to the audio, Monty. Hold on. We're doing a test. You know how this goes, Montague. You're in the business. You know what's up. Okay, I can hear it. There's the snippy snips of Monty's shears. Those must be expensive shears, I feel like, or antique. Hey, Monty. I have to listen to the audio, Monty. Hold on. We're doing a test. You know how this goes, Montague. I think we're good. I think that works, chat. Chat, you can tell me if it doesn't work, but I am pretty confident that shit worked. Let's go. Here we are. Let's go back a little. We got to go all the way back. There we go. From and in the beginning, there was Montague. In the beginning, there was Montague, chat. I do enjoy my friend Heidi saying his name was Montague. It really inspired me to call him Montague. In the beginning, there was Montague. Here we go. We have begun the stream. Oh. It appears we're cutting back grasses. It appears. I do appreciate we're just looking in at Montague. He's in the middle of this and these cameras just showed up.
Hello, welcome back to Gardener's World. It's been a long winter, but actually...
Beautifully shot show. I have to say that cutaway into the cart, beautifully done.
Quite mild and dry here at Longmeadow.
The steam out of Montague's mouth, I mean, Canon C500 for the win and stuff. I mean, that's... Let's see, I got to check back on this just to make sure we're good technically. The steam out of Montague. I keep talking so much, I don't get to hear Montague. I've got to pipe down. Here we go. I'm assuming it's good, so we're just going to keep going.
And the grass borders have looked good right up into January. But by February, they lose their luster.
I didn't even know Montague made grass borders. I've missed a lot.
Get wet, they start to flop and fall, and it's time to
That's
cut
like,
them back.
what grass is that?
The best
Looks like
time
Equinox.
to cut ornamental grasses back is the end of
Okay. Wait a second. Holy shit, is that a ring? Is Montague rebar ring supporting his grasses?
Before they start into any meaningful growth. As soon as you see any new growth appear at the base of the plant, they need to be cut right back down to the ground.
Are we not going to get an explanation on that rebar?
And I'm cutting back all the deciduous grasses, like this miscanthus. This is Miscanthus sachariflorus, an enormous great grass. Whereas the evergreen grasses, like Stipa, for example, you just comb through.
Now this is another thing. If you're American and you watch this, Stipa giganta, Amolinia, these European grasses, they're from very far northern latitudes. America is warm for them. Just going to say that. Just keep in mind, when you're watching Gardener's World, it is from a very English, northern UK, latitudinal situation.
And remove any loose growth, but don't cut them back. Now, coming up on today's programme, Francis celebrates the cyclamen, one of the jewels of the spring season.
Cyclamen are a fantastic way of bringing some much-needed colour to what can otherwise be slightly drab winter flower beds.
Adam visits a garden in Suffolk created entirely in one colour, green.
Here, Hebe raconensis, look, a plant that I remember from the...
Now, Adam was supposed to be on the podcast. He didn't get back to me at one point, and then that's my bad. I didn't follow up. It's okay. Adam and I think he follows. I see he follows. DMs are seen. We're okay. Me and Adam. Just giving you the personal, the tea.
The Parks Department is a 16-year-old. He's interplanted with yuccas. So you've got these forms just popping up through.
And I shall be sowing seeds of perennial plants that will flower in this garden for years to come.
Don't love the graphic. Don't love it. Don't love it. I don't even know if it's necessary anymore. It's beautiful. It almost feels like it's in the way of the daffodils. Just saying. Oh, my bad. Wrong button. That looks like a Lenten rose. Oh, y'all. Monty Donald's got on that Uncle Larry banana juice. How do you think he got all these? I'll send them over to him. How do you think them hellebores look so pretty on your screen? That's right. Uncle Larry's banana juice. You just sprinkle it. Uncle Larry banana juice all over yourself.
planting a tree.
I like the fennel
here
in the
the
background.
grass borders. Two reasons for that. One, because I think trees look great.
Is that a cardoon?
That's always a good thing to do, but actually this is more specific because I'm planting a tree to celebrate and commemorate the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. And I am amongst thousands of you who are doing the same.
God
You'll
Save
create
the
a
Queen
green
is
zone
on
that
my
will
hoodie.
spread across the land and still be there
know this.
in 70 years.
I
time,
am
and I hope
dressed
that's longer
for
than that.
the occasion.
And the tree I've chosen is a fastigiate birch. Now, fastigiate simply means that it grows more or less vertically. The branches, instead of going out horizontally, tend to grow upwards, and you get this very slim pencil shape. And the silver of the birch is a nod to the Platinum Jubilee. So on both levels, it's going
We're not getting we're not getting botanicals anymore. Betula, betula. You say birch, I say betula. We're not getting botanicals, Montague. What happened to the graphics? They used to do little graphics with the botanical. Oh no, they get rid of those. Oh, what the chat? Did they get rid of the little graphics to give the botanical? Oh shit, we're 321 in. Damn.
well for me. And it doesn't matter what type of tree you plant, there are basic rules that will ensure that it gets away to a good start and goes on to thrive for many, many years to come. Now, the first thing to do, whether you're planting it into grass or into a border, is to dig a fairly wide area, much wider than the pot or even the roots if you get a bare root one.
This is good so
At
far.
this stage,
It's good. It's good.
Don't add any goodness to the soil. No compost or
Good,
manure.
good. We've changed this. Good, we're up to
What we
date.
want to do
Good,
is
I'm
get
glad.
the roots of the tree growing out. So you don't want to do anything that keeps them inside the planting hole. Now, the next really important thing
Monty got my
is
notes.
to make
I'm glad.
sure you don't plant the tree in a dip or a saucer. That's the quickest way to kill it. You need to plant it actually on a slight mound, almost on a cone. And then the roots will go slightly down and out, and that will anchor it much more securely. Sounds counterintuitive,
Well,
but it works.
I mean, hold on,
Biggest
Montague.
mistake.
Montague, I do have an issue there. The shape of the dig is a saucer. Where the plant goes is on a berm, but the saucer is like this with a dimple / bump in the middle. So it's a saucer with a bump where the plant goes. But it ultimately is sort of saucer shape with the bump in the middle. It's a saucer with a fucking bump in the middle. That's what it is.
In planting any tree is to plant it too deeply. So actually, that's about right. Now,
Get
what I
high.
do is loosen the sides.
Sometimes you got to get high to get low.
Feeding roots that are growing out have got nice loose soil to grow into.
He does have good, look at that
If you've got a
soil.
bare root plant,
This
give
guy's
it
got the
good
garden soil, for
before you
sure.
Plant it, and then spread the roots out. The vast majority of trees, particularly as we go into spring, will be sold in a pot like this.
Travesty,
Out
Montague.
of the pot,
Bare root plants are
gently
better.
lift it out, and you can see that's not root bound.
That looks like a sneebor or
Healthy
shovel.
roots and a healthy
Or is it a
tree.
fork?
Now,
Spade?
Place that on
Fork?
the surface like that. You can see that's slightly proud. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Now start
Okay.
to pull the soil back in.
Also, I will note, the heavier your soil, the more important it is to be high than to be low. Here in the South, in the United States, there are conditions where the soil is so fucking heavy. There is no way you could plant in it. So you literally go up above it, bring in better quality soil, and rebuild, essentially. If the soil isn't that level of bad, then you can build up and use organic matter or soil from other sites that's improved, but similar composition to your own in your area, so people around you who essentially have better soil. Go bother them. Knock on people's doors. I did have one time someone asked me if I would give them some of my soil, and I said, get off of my property before I sick the cat on you.
Like that. And then, when you've
Still like the
loosely
fennel.
drawn the soil around it, Hold the tree with one hand and then heel around it and deliberately try and make a cone. And this means that you're not damaging the roots that are there, but you're making sure it's nice and secure.
I think this is too much.
And not going
There's
to
a lot of
move too
verbiage
much.
here.
At this point, you have to decide whether to stake it or not.
Okay, hold on, chat. So if
Now,
you look
ideally,
right
with a
here
small tree,
on your
you don't
screen,
stake it.
that little highlighted portion of the betula that Montague's putting in the ground is a root flare. Almost all deciduous trees and even coniferous trees have a flare as they get older. It looks like a little turn off of the main trunk, and that's that beginning of the root. The other important thing that I think Montague should mention here, there are distinctly two different types of roots in most deciduous trees, including his betula, is anchoring roots and feeding roots. The cone talk is okay, but I think what I'm going to end up seeing if people do this is plants that are very high, that are sort of planted with a cone, and it's going to create this sloping effect. You're going to get away with that on a lot of fast, deciduous growing trees. You're not going to get away with that on any tree or ornamental woody shrub that is in any way root heat sensitive. Pseudocamellia, syringa, Cornus cusa. I can keep going. There's a fair amount.
Because that will encourage it from day one to move. And you want it to move.
Okay.
Because that builds in strength and flexibility.
He's right about this bamboo anchor
However,
thing, but a
the
bullshit
bigger the
thing
tree,
forever.
The more it needs staking. I think this one actually probably doesn't need staking. So what I'm going to do is cut the bamboo and remove it. Now, if you do stake a tree,
That tree's only like 3 years
far more
old.
effective is to stake at an angle. At 45 degrees like that.
Okay. I love Monty. I've read Monty's books. I don't know if Monty speaks about 45-degree angles all the time. I think this is really specific verbiage that gives a lot of very recipe-sounding things like 45-degree angles, cones, shaping. This is making this seem, in my opinion, chat, you correct me if you think I'm wrong, a little more complicated than it is. A little more soil talk, a little less like, now we've got to get a post. I mean, where's this guy get all these tools? I mean, he's got a lot of shit here. I mean, do we have to go? I mean, Home Depot don't have none of this stuff Monty's got. So there's ways to communicate this that I think are soil first, trees are easy. The end.
And you place the stake towards the prevailing wind.
Now we got to find out where the prevailing wind is at. I didn't even know I had prevailing wind.
Now we need to water. Doesn't matter if it's rained for a week before or going to rain for a week, give it a good soak.
I completely disagree with that. I'll let it go.
And then the final stage is to mulch it.
People, that fucking tree didn't need that water. Do you see how heavy? Monty's got galoshes on, y'all. He showed his property flooding around, probably this is the first episode of the season. His property at Longmeadow regularly floods. He shows it on Instagram. This tree does not need that water. If you always do things the exact same way every time, you will be destined to fail in gardening. You have to be flexible of mind.
It doesn't terribly matter what you mulch it with. I'm going to use garden compost. The purpose of
Compost.
the mulch is primarily to keep the moisture in and to suppress weeds. That is none too generous, but don't heap it up around the base of the plant. And then you will need to water it regularly for the first year. And after a year, it should be able to fend for itself. And the crucial thing is to enjoy it and watch it and get...
See, I feel we spent way too much time on everything else but this other part. This is not that difficult to do. Like, this did not need a technical explanation that sounded like if you made mistakes, you had done something wrong. Birch are easy to grow trees. They do well in so many climates. They're trees. They want to be trees. Our job is to know 2 or 3 basic things and get the fuck out of the way.
Real pleasure from it from day one.
It's so pretty, though. The show is
Now,
just like
Francis
good
went
shots.
to North Devon to the Garden of Higher Cherub
See, I haven't seen
to
Frances
see
that much. I've seen her in the past, but not
fantastic
that much.
national collection of cyclamen.
Sangokaku, Acer palmatum, Sangokaku.
Warming up
Or
for
no, it's
Tree
Cornus.
Day,
It could be
the willows
Cornus.
here lining the path
It's Willow
create a
Salix.
fiery display.
Salix.
Underneath is a seasonal carpet of snowdrops. But for me, it's the bright pops of pink, white, and magenta that bring real joy to the garden at this time of year.
Cyclamen are a fantastic way of bringing some much-needed colour.
Cyclamen are sold in America oftentimes as annuals.
Beautiful reflex petals, but they have a whole array of stunning foliage as well.
But not all cyclamen will survive a winter outside. So if you want something which will be long-lasting, it's worth being mindful about what you buy.
This is Cyclamen persicum, and you'll see this easily in garden centres on the run up to Christmas. It's a really good house plant or bedding plant, and it's not fully hardy, so a cold winter will kill this off, unfortunately, but it's so bright and beautiful, lots of different colours, so it's well worth getting if you have somewhere nice and frost-free you can store it for the winter. This is Cyclamen hederifolium, which means ivy-leaved. And you can see why. It's got beautiful, quite pointed leaves with a marbling kind of variegation on them. Now this one has finished flowering now. It will flower from about August until October, so autumn flowering, but very, very beautiful. For the winter flowering kind, you need Cyclamen coum, which is this one here, a much rounder leaf and lovely delicate flowers. And this will flower from about December time until April. And the
Glad to see the Botanical Graphics making a return. Thank you. We are, how long are we into this now? It took 9 minutes and 40 seconds to get the first botanical nomenclature on the screen. I am a little upset about that. It's okay.
lovely thing about this is you can have that winter colour for decades because these plants live a very long time.
Quick note, I'm helping. They are beautiful plants. They are near alpine. They want sharp drainage. And if they get drainage and go through moderate winters, they're usually great. In gardens in the southern half of the United States, cyclamen are a challenge unless you're willing to make some exceptions for them. Although I have seen them do very well over in the Carolinas, like Asheville-y kind of area.
Joe Hines has been growing cyclamen since the early 80s and is passionate about these small, delicate flowers.
Everywhere I look, there's more and more to see. What is it about cyclamen particularly that you love, though?
I think the fact that they're, well, particularly cyclamen coum, completely winter hardy, and they provide a lovely colour splash.
And they've taken you on some travels too, haven't they?
They have. It's definitely a really good excuse for a Mediterranean holiday. You see some beautiful scenery. And for instance, if you go to Lake...
That picture showing cyclamen growing on a rock edge tells you everything you need to know about cyclamen.
Garda, you can go up into the mountains behind Lake Garda, where cyclamen purpurascens grows, and it's really beautiful. Wow. And there's a glorious scent. Purpurascens has been used in the perfume industry in the past.
Fascinating. They aren't a typical Mediterranean species that wants kind of full sun, sort of highly drained soil. They're a bit more shade tolerant.
That's right. Cyclamen are woodland species in the Mediterranean, well, mostly woodland. So in that respect, you can grow them here as a woodland ground cover for a garden that's got deciduous trees.
Amazing.
So the deciduous trees provide
Oh,
shade
yeah.
in summer, give them their forest floor.
Yulia, I've seen them do really well. I mean, I think they're great plants. I really do. I've always thought cyclamen, people were missing the boat on them. What I always hope is like shows like this, let's get people doing some cyclamen. Like, let's get a cool nursery going in North America where somebody's trying cyclamen, and this is beautiful. Absolutely, I love this. The foliage, you know, Galanthus foliage, could be Leucojum. There looks like there's some anemone foliage flipping in there, geranium or tiarella or something. This is a beautiful woodland picture that we're looking at. I mean, I think these are the type of plants that we need more of in the world for sure. I mean, I need more of them here. Let's get some.
And they take the moisture out of the soil.
Right.
Because cyclamen want to go dormant. Most cyclamen want to be dormant over summer. They don't want to be wet.
Okay, well that makes sense. And with your hellebores and your snowdrops and everything else,
That's right.
obviously all working together in the same way. How many species are there?
There are 24
Right.
at the moment, according to the taxonomists. And I think I've got 23 of them. And one species isn't really in cultivation. And it has only been recently described, and it's very difficult to grow.
She really
They're very
wants
rare
that
to see.
species.
And
I would too.
Completely
I'm
nothing. It's
projecting.
like from one tiny part of one mountain range in Somalia.
As a national collection holder, Jo spends a lot of time looking after her cyclamen. It's important to her to have backups if any of the plants fail.
Which is that's a pretty little plant. It's really brilliant. The National Trust in the UK holds some of the gardens, like the really big ones, like Sissinghurst. But then there is a collaboration of Heritage, I can't remember the title of the organization, where they have all these national collections. And Gardener's World has always featured them. So I am happy to see a National Trust cyclamen collection on the first episode of 2022.
Look at all these, beautiful.
So
We're going to pot up some.
So you're propagating
We're
yeah.
propagating?
from tuber that you tend to do that?
I tend to be potting up tubers if I'm going to show them or have them in a display greenhouse. That's cyclamen coum. So that's what a coum tuber looks like.
There we go.
They'll have slightly different features. Coum roots from the bottom, heterofolium roots from the shoulders.
Okay.
But I would want to normally grow cyclamen from seed.
Oh, really?
It's very easy, it's very cheap, and that's how they reproduce themselves in the wild. So
World
when seeds
Plants
are dried,
in
and
the
when you
UK
soak them,
has a decent
but
amount,
actually it's
and
better
then
to sow seed fresh.
I think
If you're lucky to
Cholito
germinate
used to do
the
them
same
as
year
well.
You sow it,
Right.
and the different species have different seed pods. So this is Cyclamen persicum, and it has these really weird, wacky, sticking out things.
Those are
that
cool.
Hold the seed away from the plant.
So
when
very
do you
cool.
collect these?
It's a good
So
little
seeds are
adaptation
ripe
too. It's the plant
in
reaching,
probably May or
right, to
June.
drop its
How
seeds
can you
further
tell when
than
they're
right
ripe?
in
They
itself.
start to feel like
Hellebores do that. It's too close to
tapioca
themselves.
or a big fat tick, a bit, they're a bit soft inside. You can
Yeah.
roll your finger.
Unfortunately, I know exactly what that feels like. And then you'd sow them straight away.
And you sow them straight away.
Right.
As soon as they dry off, they have some sort of dormancy mechanism,
Right.
and they then have to be soaked and go a whole season before they'll germinate.
Okay. So are these ones that you've sown then? These are seedlings?
So these are seedlings that I've sown. You can tear these apart, and they're not going to come to any harm.
She's not delicate.
You've sown a
There's
seed,
no
you wait
delicateness
for a
there.
whole year
She's
for
done this
germination.
1,000
You then
times.
leave
She's
them
just
in
like,
their seed pot for another year to
Whole
2
year.
years.
Yeah.
she's
And
done
now you're
this.
pricking them
This
out.
lady I like.
How long would you?
I almost
wait
feel
for
like
them to start
Francis is
flowering?
in the way. I got to be
Well,
honest.
different species do different things, and some of the smaller tubers will flower quite quickly. But
Can we spend a
heterofolium
day
for
with
me
her?
Takes
Yulia, can we go
probably
spend the
3
day with
years.
her? That seems like that would be more
It
fun.
might be 5 years.
Really?
Purpurascens can be 6 years. From a garden design point of view, if you want to lighten up your woodland floor, you can use the silver-leaved ones. Are really good. And of course, there's white-flowered ones. White with a silver leaf is very bright.
Yeah,
It's a lovely light ground cover.
It's a beautiful white alba. I also like the slight
Whilst cyclamen help to provide a source of food for hungry
Beautiful show.
pollinators,
Have to
there are
say,
some other
always
insects
beautiful.
which are just as important to the
No, that's
plant's
stock
survival.
photography. We could tell.
Ants
That's
like
not
to
from
eat
the same
sticky
crew. You
starch
can
on
tell.
the outside of cyclamen seeds and help disperse them, which is why they can.
That
end
was
up
like
in
from the
all sorts
team
of
who
unexpected
does
places.
the David Attenborough stuff.
Once you have introduced hardy cyclamen into your garden, they will gradually spread out and find their place.
And right now, set amongst their bedfellows of hellebores and snowdrops, primulas and daffodils. But before the spring
Facts
really
there,
takes
Yulia.
hold,
Facts.
This is the perfect time to enjoy cyclamen in their last throes of seasonal colour.
Beautiful job on the salix too by her. I mean, don't underestimate the pruning job on those salix. Have you ever tried to coppice prune a salix? It's tough. Like that is a thump, 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 thump plant. So her cyclamen collection is next level, and the pruning job on those salix. We got to send Montague better helis.
That cyclamen coum produces its roots from the base of this puck-like tuber, whereas cyclamen hederifolium, and I grow both widely in this garden, produces its roots from the shoulder higher up. But what I can tell you...
His
is
early
that she's
season
never
garden
fixed it to.
looks great.
What happens is the hederifolium totally swamps cyclamen coum. And within a year or two, they'll all be gone, and it doesn't work. You do need to keep them separate. And here in the spring garden, I've got some cyclamen coum.
But what does he mean by that? Like, I'm confused. What does it mean it takes it over? Montague just tickled her ass with a feather and didn't follow up? Is that going to happen? Like, does he mean, like, aggressive-wise?
To add to the spring display. This is cyclamen coum roseum. And the colour will pick up on the hellebores. The hellebores have always been a mainstay of the spring garden, and they're just coming up to their finest hour. Snowdrops are coming to an end, but the snowflakes, leucojum, are coming good, and they're really...
Yulia, you with me? That comment, it's sort of just like a throwaway comment on his part, I think. But then I'm like, so if the cyclamen coum versus cyclamen heterophyllum, like the heterophyllum is aggressive? Is that what he's saying? And that it just dominates the cyclamen coum? Like, how would that be? I mean, oh.
really strong and dramatic. We've got the daffodils, tete-a-tete, small but really perky and proud. And also one of my favourite plants in the whole garden, just poking its foliage through the ground, won't be flowering until the end of this month, and that is the Imperial Fritillary, one of the wackiest plants you can grow in the garden.
Fritillaria.
Joe said they prefer deciduous woodland, and that's what the spring garden is really. Open now at this time of year, and then as the foliage fills out in spring, it gets darker and drier, which is fine for the coum. They're absolutely happy with that. And I'm going to plant them around the base of the hazel here, trying not to do too much damage.
It's called Don't Step on Plants,
Now,
Monty.
when you're planting
Don't step on plants, bro. I'll send you a shirt,
dividing them in
son.
a pot,
You'll like
just
it.
take them
I mean,
out of
he may not ever get to wear... Does Montague
put
ever
them in
wear
the
a
ground at the
T-shirt?
same depth.
That's a question. Ooh, I like the Sneebor
In there,
with the Dutch lily head. I like.
And
Some good garden swagger there.
The ants
That's a little bit of little drip, Montague drip.
It's a nice thought, that, isn't it? One of the features of the last couple of years for us has been sharing your gardens with us on the programme. These Stuart's videos have been an absolute delight, and we intend to continue them for as long as you're prepared to send them in. So please don't stop.
That almost
Send
sounded like
in
a threat.
Your gardens, doesn't matter what they're like, how big, how
Or maybe
small,
people have
either
stopped sending in their videos. It's one of the two. It was either a threat or people have stopped sending them in.
And you
It
can
was
get
one of the
details
two.
on how to do that and where to send
Can
them
I
in.
participate?
Now, the first garden that we're going to
I
visit
should
today
participate.
belongs to Libby in Surrey.
I'll talk shit and everything. I like, okay. Get a little kitty catty.
I'm Libby. I'd like to share with you what has been my haven for many years. I've got a few special things I would like to show you. Over
Let's see it.
here are my beautiful native primroses. It was one clump when we came here.
Look at the
50 years
primula.
ago. But these I've put together in memory of my husband.
I always love
He
primula.
isn't with me anymore. And he loved yellow, and they've flowered beautifully. I've got lots of them, you can see, because every year, from that one clump, I split them up and I plant them round the garden.
Oh, I see a Helleborus foetitis.
Here, we dug out
Foetitis.
a flower bed in the front garden and put all the soil up here. Unbeknown to us, there must have been scillas amongst the soil. And
There
they
always are.
spread and spread, unaided
Look at the
and
pulmonary in there.
undisturbed for years.
Very cute.
I think they like the chalky soil which drains well. The scillas seem to manage to spread everywhere, and I wait for them to finish before I dig. I store the spare bulbs, allow them to dry before putting them in trays near the pavement for other people to take.
Oh, that's
There
sweet.
must be scillas from my garden in many local gardens now. They're so lovely. I really
That's so sweet.
enjoy them.
That's so cool.
I hope you've enjoyed seeing my garden as much as I have enjoyed showing it to you. Bye.
Got that magnolia drip. I like the blue sweater. Now, I mean, I gotta be honest. I don't know if the rejoin needs to be Montague with his spring bulb crocus display all in our faces. I mean, it's a little aggressive after her. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we just transition into Monty and Monty talking about how incredible that is with the Scylla. I mean, let's just land there. I mean, we don't need, this feels like a little bit of a dick pic.
Well, thank you for sharing your haven with us, Libby. It's fascinating to visit a garden where someone has occupied and looked after it for 50 years. That's so rare in this day and age. Now, you're very lucky being able to grow scillas like that, because here our heavy clay is not really ideal for them. But the crocus are really happy, and you can see here on the cricket pitch, they're doing well this year.
I actually believe he
Then
plays cricket.
the
He's a big
daffodils
cricket
are
fan.
coming through, and we'll
He's
soon
like a big
see
cricket
photos from
person.
them, and they'll be
He's always
followed
on
by
Twitter talking about
Hillary,
cricket.
Kamasias,
He's like, oh, what a squad, what a match, what a game. So he's always like, the gentlemen were so good this week.
are camellias. It's the combination of
Join
our
the club,
soil,
Monty.
climate, and the pH. They really grow best if it's slightly acidic. However, last March, we went down to Exbury Gardens.
Do we get to
in
Exbury? Oh, yeah,
Hampshire,
okay. I know where that's at.
They do have success.
I've
We
seen a lot of
saw the
Exbury before.
camellias
Never been, but know a lot of it. Every American camellia nursery grower and camellia collector in America, this is going to be their response to this segment. They can't grow shit camellias over there in the UK. Their camellias suck. All of the camellia people I know in the United States all feel that like Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana grow the best camellias in the world, bar none. And just no one's ever really picked up on the fact that it can be done. Brilliant though, great plant. It is a tree. Do remember that. It is a true tree.
Right through to April. And in a woodland setting like ours, they really sort of bring the garden alive.
I think I may follow him on Instagram.
Gardening for me is about positivity and about hope, the sort of start of spring really. My name's Tom Clark, I'm a head gardener here at Exbury. We've got a fantastic collection of camellias. We've got well over 1,000 individual plants.
They should put people's socials up now.
Different varieties.
I mean,
which makes
it would just
Exbury
be
a
helpful
fantastic
for the
garden
people.
a camellia lover like me. In the wild, there's well over 100 different species of camellia, so these are plants that grow naturally throughout Asia, from the sort of Himalayas right through to Japan and southwest China. The International Camellia Register has got over 22,000 named camellias, so it's a huge group of plants. There's pretty much a camellia for everyone, really. So this is my favourite. This is Bob Hope, a fantastic camellia. Got this lovely, intense red flower. It almost glows when the sun shines on it, and backed by the, the nice
They are
big
absolutely
evergreen
beautiful.
leaves, so it really sets off the red flowers.
If I
It's
just
lovely,
lived
slightly
like
more open habit than some of the other
5
camellia
hours to the
japonicas, which
south.
This is a cultivar of. It's quite an early flowering camellia, so it'll flower from the middle of March right through into April. He's been flowering for a couple of.
Camellia Forest in North Carolina, really good place. And what's the other one? Both of the good online camellia nurseries are in America are both in North Carolina, have great selection. There's all kinds of great camellias. And there are also 2 really great world-renowned camellia hybridizers, both in Alabama.
Weeks with us, and there's still more buds to come, so we'll get a good month out of Bob. If you're only going to grow 1 camellia in your garden, then, I mean, what more could you ask out of a plant than this, really? It's fantastic. So there's 6 different classifications of flower types. So there's the single flowers, which are very simple flowers. And then there's semi-doubles. There's formal doubles, which have got the lovely sort of imbricate petals, or concentric petals, but no stamens at all. And then there's the anemone forms and the peony forms, and they're much more sort of showy, the big blousy sort of flowers. And then the rose form.
I'm not growing camellias, no matter what you say.
Okay, so this is a
I've tried.
fantastic camellia. This is Camellia Donation, bred in Cornwall by the Williams family back in the 1930s. So this plant is probably getting on for 100 years old. I mean, we've allowed this to grow into a lovely sort of open spreading tree. But you don't have to. Camellia Donation can be pruned. It can be grown very formally, where you can clip it and then you'll get all the flowers very close in. We've got a really good example of one trained against a house here, where it's been clipped really tight and regularly, and it's still
Captain's
flowers really well.
Cottage. I need that
One of the
sign.
great things
Can we get
about
that sign,
MZI
Captain's Cottage?
Donation is that it's got this fantastic succession of flowers. So it's in full flower now, but all of these flowers, as they drop off, there's lots of new buds coming, and it will carry on flowering well into May, really.
I mean, this is very cool. I think this, to me, is a little bit more Gardener's World good. So I'm hoping this is a good thing for the 2022 season. So far, I'm enjoying most of the things without Montague at the moment. Just a little more bump in that one.
If the sort of larger, blousy camellias aren't really your thing, one of the great things about the camellia genus is the diversity. And so this is a Camellia cuspidata hybrid, and this has got a much more elegant, lax habit. It's got this lovely weeping branches, a bit more open, and it's got the lovely white single flowers with yellow stamens and nice sort of willow-like leaves. Cuspidata has been used as a parent for a lot of other camellia hybrids like Cornish Spring, and they've got a similar habit, but they've got a bit of hardiness bred into them as well, so they're a better garden plant and probably grow in a wider range.
Now, I'm hoping, when we come out of this segment, that Montague is going to be trying out a Camellia cuspidata. That's what I'm hoping. Spoiler alert. I don't know. We're all learning together.
Joe conditions.
I mean, this gentleman
People think
just said that.
Camellias can be quite difficult to grow or quite fussy or demanding, which really isn't the case. As long as you've got either neutral or slightly acidic soil, then beyond that, then camellias will grow in most conditions quite happily. If you don't have the right soil in your garden, then you can use ericaceous compost and grow them in pots quite happily.
Those bomb anemone types are very nice. I always have a thing for those.
One problem people
Look at
come
that.
across
That's
is
the
when you
most
get this
woodlandy
chlorosis
soil.
When the leaves go yellow. Camellias use a lot of nitrogen, particularly in the spring when they're coming into flower. And if they can't draw up enough nutrients through the roots, that can lead to this chlorosis. So one of the problems I think we've got here is poor drainage and compaction, which means that the
It's
plant's
always
not drawing
drainage,
up
man.
as much
It's
nutrients
just
as it could.
always
So just by
drainage.
forking over like this, just outside of a drip line, so that's just to the edge of the branches, and that avoids damaging the roots, especially the small feeder roots which are quite close to the surface. You'll improve the drainage.
This is good.
but without
This
doing
is very good. I like this.
any
I like
damage.
this. This is very
And then
good.
We'll give it a mulch, and then that should hopefully perk it up.
And also, if you wanted to amend that plant, where he did it, the drip line, right where the edge of the branches is at, is also the place to do it. If you wanted a real quick fix on chlorosis, you could add a very low dose nitrogen-rich fertilizer. Iron and nitrogen together solve chlorosis. So if you go to the drip line, you loosen it like he did, you put any kind of liquid or granular, anything released like that, boom, usually fixes it, 30 days or so. Beautiful plants though. Just beautiful.
Another thing that people find is that they don't really like the brown flowers. So, I mean, you can, if it's a smaller shrub, you can just easily go around and
I can't
take
be
them off,
friends with
leaving
those
obviously
people.
the flowers that are coming.
I can't be
the
friends
new
with those
buds.
people. We can't be
So,
friends.
If it's a bigger shrub like
If
this,
you're
you
going
can basically
around,
just
like,
get in
I mean,
and
that
just give
stuff
it the right
bothers you.
shakes, which is
You don't
what
have
we do.
enough, yeah. You don't have enough plants if shit like that bothers you. Like if you're going around picking off old brown camellias,
The old petals and tidies him up a treat, really.
go plant something instead. Occupy your time with more interesting things.
We only ever do this once or twice a week in the season, just to stop them looking untidy, really. Camellias have been prized by gardeners for hundreds, probably thousands of years. They flower.
They're
early
in the
spring,
tea
and they flower
family,
for
by
quite a
the
long
way.
Period of time. They're tough.
Camellia.
They've got lovely
It's tea.
dark green,
But you
evergreen
can't use
foliage.
this.
So they're a good all-round plant, and they deserve, a place in British gardens. If you think you don't like camellias, you probably just haven't found the right one.
Who would say that? Like, has someone gone up to him and been like, I don't like camellias? I mean, can he slap them? I mean, is that allowed? Another look at Montague with the hyacinth, the iris reticulata.
If you want to see the display at Exbury Gardens for yourself, the garden will be open in a few weeks' time and the camellias will still be going strong. Now, the display here on the table outside the potting shed is probably as bright and as vivid with colour as at any time of year. And although the daffodils and the scillas and the muscari and the hyacinths are beautiful and I love them, the real stars are these early iris. The intense blues, the deep purples, made deeper and richer by the touches of orange and yellow. So you have ones like...
There are so many good iris. The fact that in America we call everything iris like idiots, that's Iris germanica. And the fact that there are at least 30 to 40 plus species of iris. There are thousands of cultivated varieties. It's one of the greatest group of plants that in America has become a purple flower in the spring that people are like, oh, it's so sad.
This, which is harmony. And then you have Pixie, which is a deeper, darker purple. And they don't flower for very long. They're late this year, but usually it's from the middle of February to the middle of March. You have this intense blaze of colour, and I absolutely love them. Now, still to come on today's programme. Adam enjoys a garden in Suffolk based on texture and form rather than colour.
Have a look at the bark at the trees, because they're very prominent. That texture really stands out. And the light picks up the bamboo and they make a statement.
We meet Andrew Salter, who has created his own garden oasis in the depths of the Kent countryside.
Okay, that's beautiful. The drone shot. Like, can I do this? Am I good at this? Can I do this? I think I can do this. That is outstanding. If in the United States, this is the way it would go. I actually love the inverse of this, by the way. This is actually the opposite of what so many people do with homes, right? So around the house, the foundation planting is not a planting. It's hardscaping, which makes sense to keep the house safe and build a foundation and all of those things. So that is hardscaped. And then we're into the garden. That makes a ton of sense. That is very interesting. Now you got me. Call me
Created
intrigued.
his own garden oasis in the depths of the Kent countryside.
I'm very conscious that I'm living in a field here. I wanted to be comfortable, but most important was simply being wrapped in nature.
And I shall be revealing a new big project here in the garden.
Montague's mostly been playing with bulbs the whole show. He's going to sow seeds.
Many of us are used to growing vegetables from seed and annuals or biennials from seed. But not so many of us grow perennials from seed. And, these are plants that can last 20 or...
Look at Gardener's World with some Veronicastrum virginicum.
30 years and are the main features in our board.
Salvia macrophylla.
Tend to go to a garden centre and buy a good-sized plant, which might cost us upwards of 10 or even 20 pounds, and plant it, and there we go. But actually, you can grow your perennials from seed just as easily as you can grow a carrot or a cosmos. And I've got 3 seeds here, and if you would like to grow them along with me, I will take you through all the stages from germination, pricking out, potting on, planting out.
Please, Montague can curse.
And we can share.
He said prick. Montague said prick.
The principle is essentially the same. I like to use seed trays because they don't need the depth of soil that a pot would give you, and you can get more seeds in them.
He's always had those
Use
green seed trays.
Free potting compost. Fill it up. So shake it like that. And what I do is I have
Peat-free
one of those
drink.
boards and I just level it out like that. And then gently tamp it down. I'm not compacting it. I'm just getting an even surface for the seeds to land on. Now I've got 3 lots here. I've got Verbena bonariensis, tall, topped with wonderful...
Okay. Okay. I don't know if I would land on Verbena boreensis being a perennial. I would land on it being a sort of cold sensitive, non-tender. It's a tender perennial. It's tender perennial. And it does germinate like nobody's business. It actually has a reputation in areas where it's real happy of being too happy. And it germinates like anywhere. Helleborus too, if you leave them outside, they'll germinate anywhere. Hybridotype, some of the others a little more poetitis.
That bees and butterflies love in late summer and early autumn. A really
The
good
show is shot
garden
beautifully.
Favorite.
I have to
I've
just
got
remember all
Rudbeckia
this.
Goldstone. And it is amazing how a small packet of seeds can produce a mass of these plants. It's a really good way of filling up a border. And finally, I've got Delphinium Sky Blue, this blue spire of flower that will start to flower in early summer. And then when you cut them back, they will flower again in late summer and early autumn.
That was the most UK comment anyone has ever made about
Placing them
delphiniums.
apart, it means that when I come to prick them out, I'm not going to be damaging the roots of neighbouring plants. Now, having sown those and spaced them out as best I can, gently press them down so that the seed makes good contact with the growing medium.
He has done this
Cover
about,
that
what's up,
very
Trisha?
lightly
How are
with
you?
some compost.
Good to
That's
see
in the
you.
Pacific, but just a little sprinkle to cover it. And then label. Now, I have a basic rule. that
Okay.
I label anything.
Everyone help me. Help me. Chat, help me. So Monty has been doing seeds the same way forever. Oh yeah, for sure, Yulia. Oh yeah, for sure. I actually would like to go back and watch the old Gardener's Worlds too. And just like juxtapose the two for a second. But chat, haven't we seen this a lot? Like, I mean, you know, you tap the seeds with the woody thing and it goes on the soily thing and then germination-y things happen. I mean, like, I get we're reaffirming some things that, like, maybe we didn't know as much, but it feels like if you've seen this once, twice, thrice, I mean, fives, how many times do we need to see this is my general question. Everything else on the show has been great. Montague is the weak link on this episode.
Anything that can be picked up. Now that applies for little, slightly larger seeds, big enough to handle. But when you have a mass of smaller seeds, the technique is slightly different. Put some compost in there. Give it a shake.
It's looking a little too Martha Stewart in there too, by the way. I used to like it when it was a little grimier. Felt a little more
smaller than the delphinium seeds, even though the plant is actually quite big. There you go.
The cutaways have gotten really good, though. Their cutaways in production are great.
And sprinkle. And resist the temptation to sprinkle.
Is that got peat in it?
Again, cover them over very lightly.
Lightly. It's important. That didn't look lightly.
Once you've sown
It
your
looked more
seeds,
heavy.
you need to give them the best chance of germinating. And generally, heat and moisture will do that. So a windowsill above a radiator will be absolutely fine. If you've got a greenhouse, that's great. Water them. Don't let them dry out, but they shouldn't be sodden. And you will see seedlings start to appear.
You know, I'll be real,
somewhere
Trisha.
between 10
It looked a
days
little
and 3 weeks.
peat-y
Now, what
to
we've done here is
me.
invest in colour for the future, not just for next year, but for years.
It looked a little
and
more on the
years to
brown
come.
peat side. I agree.
But Adam
Now, maybe
wants
it's like
you
a
to
hardwood product. Maybe that's
Visit
it.
a garden that has proudly
Let's see our boy Adam.
invested in just one colour.
Adam is going to save the show now. Although so far I'd say the cyclamen is the highlight and Libby with giving away her Scylla.
Creating
Those
a
are the
garden from
highlights.
scratch
Cyclamen
can be
and Scylla.
A very exciting thing, if not a little bit scary. And I think for a lot of us, we look forward to adding the
I agree with Trisha. I think Monty just went round down. He was like, oh shit.
What are you gonna
Tell him it's peat free.
Well, could well be something like this.
They're using a lot of reflectors on the show now. That all the angles of the hosts look very warm in the face. Like there's a gold reflector just off shot. But these shots, we don't get the gold vibes.
Personal oasis of evergreen planting. It's a considered study in texture, structure, form, and space. Foliage from all around the world, brought alive by winding gravel paths. It's all about gardening in layers and contrasting the vertical with the horizontal. The trunks of the tall trees help frame the multi-stem shrubs that have had their canopies lifted. And at their feet, topularized.
I mean, is Adam really in your ears? Adam is really in my ears today. Like he's really...
We moved from Cambridge and saw the house, which I thought was all right, but then I saw this site, which was a scoop out of a south-facing hill.
Yeah.
And it had some mature Scots pines on the perimeter, and then a lot of mess in the middle.
Pinus sylvestris.
Oh, that looks like a good site for a garden.
Yeah, Trisha, I'm with you on that too. I'd like to know a little bit more about the people sometimes too, right? Like their story. Like, was he a gardener?
Yeah. So
He seemed to be interested in plants when they bought the house. Oh, a conifer person.
An understory of clip shrubby honeysuckle, Lonicera nitida, snakes its way through the garden, along with a series of box balls that look as though they're tumbling down a hill.
A lot of boxes.
This hasn't
Little
been
Pinus
designed,
Thunbergiana
well,
there.
not in an orthodox way.
Okay, now maybe we're going to get the
Jeffrey,
story.
Why evergreens?
I think that there must be some deep psychological reason for this, and I think it's permanence.
Is that what it is?
I can look at this in the winter, and it changes a bit in the summer because I have little bits of colour here and there.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's just sort of permanent. It's almost like defying winter. And also, it's
He's
showing
right.
off a bit. It's a show off. It is, come on. It's got to be bold. There's got to be an impact.
And it certainly is bold. His innate sense of where things should be has created some captivating planting.
They got to tell Adam to look more interested in those cutaways. He looked a little disinterested there. This is good, but he looked disinterested before.
The amount of evergreen. You could look at it and say, oh, it could be boring, but it's not, because he's used shapes, forms, undulation. So there's movement. There's this wonderful sort of...
There are a lot of movement in these shots, by the way. I would just like to say that.
Clever is he provides you with his
They've got a slider on the Gardener's World team, and they just slide the shit out of everything. They're like, everything on a slider.
Plant that I remember from the Parks Department as a 16-year-old. He's interplanted with yuccas. So you've got these forms just popping up through. They're all through his front gate. The first thing you see is Prunus lusitanica, which is just Portuguese laurel. Canopies lifted, clipped into mushrooms, interplanted with phormiums and Trachycarpus.
Yeah,
These wonderful forms and shapes play against each other. I'm loving this.
You know, I guess my question is in Adam's explanation of it, it's almost like he's giving a seal of approval or like permission. And I guess that's cool, but I almost wish we just found out more. I don't even know the dude's name. I didn't catch it. But I also just wish we found out a little bit more about him. I mean, I appreciate Adam's view of it. He's told us there's a lot of movement and form. But beyond the movement and form talk, like, what's the motivation here? Like, I mean, did this guy just show up one day and he's like, conifers? You know, he said pinetum. So clearly, this is a person who's in the coniferous way of thinking. And let's get there. And, I mean, there's interesting things going on there. But a lot of those trees, the bamboo, huge. Some of the pines, the Pinus sylvestris that he originally talked about, are massive now. So he's been gardening there, it looks like, for more than a minute. Trish, you pointed out the fact that there was a before shot. So, you know, I think there's some storytelling needed and not necessarily permission granted.
I think one thing that we can take for granted when we're creating our gardens is the light. That understanding of how it moves through your garden in a day, but also the 12 months, is really important as to how the garden feels. And I think Jeffrey's pretty well nailed it here, because the undulation of these shapes and forms, you get sort of light and shadows, and it bounces and it sparkles, but then they become reflective surfaces. So some of the branches and the clipped heads reflect not just on the ground, but also on this vast green. And then have a look, you know, at the bark, at the trees.
Yeah, also true, Trish.
You know, that
Also
texture
true.
really stands out. And the light picks up the bamboo.
I want to know if this guy's got, if he's going out with wine.
In all honesty, you can find a bamboo.
I think the bamboo
in
looks
most
great.
Conditions. You just got to do your research, choose one that maybe doesn't run. But he's again been brave here. He's gone for it. And the way the light just reflects, incredible. And they make a statement. And then, there you go. Gust of wind comes through, and the sound.
That's
is
great.
Incredible.
The production team, the field production team on Gardener's World is
None of this
great.
garden would work
I love
without
them.
control.
I would offer them to live here for free.
to know where
If
the
any of
food
you are on the
comes
Gardener's
from.
World production team
want it to
and would like to live at
something
Natchez Glen, not in the house,
creates a
probably
nice
outside in a tent.
solid-
If you'd like to live at Natchez Glen, outside in a tent, and you're on the production team for Gardener's World, I will do that. I'll feed you every day. It'll be awesome. The food will be lit. You could live outside in an epic garden. I'll make sure it's a nice tent. Okay? And if we grow on all of our platforms and, we start actually being able to make money doing this, I'll make sure we replace your tent frequently.
Really find it, and it's to create something. It's as simple as that.
How can you? I had everybody a tent.
You get the sense with Jeffrey that he just doesn't stop. But what I admire about him,
I don't know if I got that sense though. I mean, I just wish we'd learn a little bit about Jeffrey. Now, maybe Jeffrey didn't want to tell us about himself. Maybe he's like in, what's the British CIA? It's like MI something. Maybe he's very secretive. Oh, in a captain's cottage? Oh, well, what we'll do, Yulia, it won't be a cottage. It'll be a tent with a captain's cottage plaque on it. I'll just get it made. I'll be like, it's a captain's cottage. And people will be like, I think that's a tent with a captain's cottage sign on it. No, it's a captain's cottage because it says so.
he gardens without fear. He'll lift the canopy. He'll dig something up. And
That's because he's 007. He's James fucking Bond. Of course he's brave.
chosen
Have you seen him?
Some people might just look down their nose at, not him. No, he plants them, he moulds them, he creates something that provides him comfort. And for me, that's what it's all about.
I would have liked to have learned more Jeffrey. I would have liked to have... So, for those of you that watch more frequently than I do, have we replaced the Buxus with what? What have we replaced this year? These are pruned to an inch of their life. So I'm assuming this is new. I only saw Montague when he had his balls. I have not been at the Montague position where he has his cones yet. So the cones have replaced the balls. And what's the theory here? Like, I don't like this. I'm just going to say it. I don't like it. Said.
I love Jeffrey and Christine's garden, but then I do.
Where was
love
Christine?
evergreens of all forms, particularly.
Was she
when
not there that day?
It's a bit Japanesey when they're sculpted and shaped like that.
Also, too, when you see a conifer that is pruned, it does not make it Japan. Y'all need to see Japan more. I haven't even been there, but I know a lot about it. And exactly, Trish, we didn't even see Christine. Christine ain't even there. People was like, you seen Christine? I ain't seen her, but I seen Jeffrey. And a guy named Adam was here for about 4 days, and he just talked about our form and movement.
But the main thing about evergreens in any garden, however you use them, is that they are life in the middle of winter. There's a whole body of literature.
Now, here's what I don't get about this. I'm gonna spill a little tea. You guys want some tea? So your boy Montague is a real conifer shit talker. Montague back in the day, like the 2000 something Montague, I'd have to get on here on the internet. I'd be watching Montague. He'd be talking shit about conifers. I'm running a conifer nursery, and this guy's like, conifers are boring and get big and they're shitty, and if you have a conifer, you won't be allowed on the next episode of Gardener's World. What? in the ever-loving. And now he's all waxing poetic about evergreen color. I mean, Montague, how dare you? Now you're coming over to Team Conifer? What's up? Oh, Jude, you made it, Jude. Good for you. That is awesome, Jude. Here, I think I can do this, Jude. I think I can do this. I'm becoming more technologically advanced in how I do things here. Let's see. We got a little buttony thing here. I think I can do it. No. Here we go. Here, I can do it. What's up, Jude? Look at me. Boom, 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 boom. You get the 3 question marks even. I don't understand what happened here. Montague was team no conifers, no evergreens, and now this guy wants to pretend like he's all about the evergreen life. He wasn't about the evergreen life. He was about the seasonal spring life. Oh, when the spring comes alive and all of the snowdrop galanthus come alive at Longmeadow, it just makes me feel all warm in the nethers. He was living that life. And now all of a sudden he's like, evergreens is the best. Oh, let's all be evergreen. Monty come lately.
And how that challenges winter. And they give structure, they give shape. So I've got yew domes at the end of the paths, and of course these Irish yew columns. Last but certainly not least, we've got Topiary Nigel. Green forever and ever.
Chat. Chat, am I allowed to make fun of Montague for having a topiary boxwood of Nigel? Oh, I thought I had seen this on Instagram, but I didn't know they were sharing it earnestly. I thought it was for fun. I didn't think it was like earnest. He delivered that like that was earnest. Like he was really like, oh, I did this for Nige. Shit. I'm so conflicted right now. I want to make every fun of this in humanity because I thought it was for like fun. I thought it was like, man, remember Nigel? You know, he was awesome. We loved Nigel. Nigel was our guy. He was our best dog. Let's do this fun thing with Nigel. I didn't know it was like an in memoriam situation. I'm having a really hard time taking it seriously as an in memoriam. I mean, maybe if it was more like a statue, like a concrete statue that someone carved or craft, like somebody get a sculptor and get on that. Somebody get a sculptor to make Montague a cool like brass in memoriam to Nige. This looks like it belongs like at a municipal park. Like this is like belongs at a dog park. I'm just being real. It's a dog park. It's a dog park. It's dog park. I have to move past it.
Now it's time to go and visit one of your gardens again. And this is taking us to Morton-in-Marsh, the garden of Thomas Neve.
I hope Tom doesn't have any kind of topiary of a dog that died.
So this is a place of peace and tranquility. This beautiful hydrangea was more of a pink colour last year, and I experimented by putting some coffee grounds around the base of the plant.
Oh my God, y'all. Listen, this boy over here think he got coffee grounds. He ain't got shit on it. Okay, first off, if you ain't using Crazy Uncle Larry's coffee ground banana juice, you ain't using nothing. Okay, let me just put that out there, number one. Number two, let me tell you a few things about Crazy Uncle Larry's banana juice. We don't use coffee from none of those imported places. We use coffee from right here, where I grow my coffee. Because I grow coffee. And I put it with my coffee grounds in my banana juice. And I put that banana juice all over every hydrangea. I got the bluest hydrangeas you ever saw. My hydrangeas is so blue, I got Smurfs living under that shit. Got a village of Smurfs living under my hydrangea macros. Because I got macros and micros and blue-ass hydrangeas because of that. Okay? Crazy Uncle Larry's banana juice coming on sale. We're going to try to get a deal with Tractor Supply Company. I hear Tractor Supply Company is looking for some new vendors. I was over there the other day. They said they was hiring. I said, well, if you was all hiring, I got something to sell you. You ever hear of Crazy Uncle Larry's banana juice?
And it's gone a really nice blue and purple colour this year, so I'm really, really happy with how that's gone. In the evening, the scent is beautiful from these sweet peas, and I have scented jasmine up here as well. I'd like to show you my tomato plants. So, grew these from seed.
Now this is clearly from last year, but it's okay.
Happy with how they're going. I hope that I get a good crop this year.
Don't worry, bro. You don't need to use the word
Although my
crop.
garden's small,
You just got some tomatoes.
I added a lot of height to it to make it appear bigger, and this Clematis montana in the
I like it.
spring is just covered in beautiful white flowers. It's an absolute delight.
Clematis montana
I like the
Maylene.
structure and
It's
the
real
height
cool.
of these daylilies. I really like Japanese gardens, but I also like cottage gardens. So I've tried to create a fusion between East and West.
Now remember, fusion usually leads to confusion,
This is
but it's
really
okay.
my peaceful place just to come and relax. So I hope
Nature
that
is my
I can
thing.
encourage
I like
some,
the shirt even.
some people here to give gardening a go, no matter what age you are, even if you're a young.
Don't let those old sons of bitches tell you.
It's really beneficial.
Listen to this guy. He sounds like some old ass master gardener's got a hold of him and beat him down some. Yeah, you do let, nature is your thing, bro. Don't let nobody tell you no different. I mean, listen to him. He had to say it like that, like he is young and like he couldn't be like knowledgeable or enthusiastic about anything, right? Don't let these, I mean, some of these people, some of these old heads out here saying some weird stuff in the master gardening community. I would just like to say that for the record. I'm sure it's similar in the UK. Actually, I know it is. It may even be worse.
For your mental health. So thanks for having me, Gardener's World.
Now, is Monty going to show us some bulbs? Oh no, look at Monty. He's got a basket. I like, it's a home goods purchase, I think. Oh shit! The dog was in the basket? Oh shit! I immediately thought there was a gardening related thing in the basket. And then, much like in Silence of the Lambs, there was a dog in the basket. Wow. Man, the animal energy, Trish, Jude, I mean, the animal energy on this show is just like, it's a lot, man.
Yeah, you can help me. Good girl. What is great, of course, is to see somebody the age of my children gardening really well, enjoying it, and getting exactly the same sort of.
Why is he having to say that guy is his children's age? First off, I don't understand the age discrimination. I also have to say, he is holding a really sharp cutting knife over the top of this dog. The dog does not look that confident. The dog is over there going, why is Monty got that knife?
Wealth and richness from it that all of us do. Now, this greenhouse in the summer had a really good crop of tomatoes. But of course, when the tomatoes go in October,
Did Monty get a new greenhouse?
Space
I don't know if I've
through
seen this
until
one.
next May.
I'd seen the one with like the wood frame.
And what we're growing are very different plants to what you grow outside for a summer salad. So let's start here. This is a mustard. And this is called Red Frills, and I have to say, it has been fantastic. Now, it's quite delicate. You can see it's got a beautiful colour, and the taste is mustardy but not overwhelming.
It almost looks like a Mizuna, by the way.
The
Is it a
next one
Mizuna? Or is it just
chicory.
we're just calling it a mustard?
Different family. The mustard is a brassica. This is a chicory, but it doesn't have a heart. It's an endive. You can see there are touches of botrytis on this. This is a sort of brown mould. That is my fault. Winter was quite warm.
Okay. Let's have the talk. I'm going to do it real quick. I got to do it. Got to do it. Sorry, y'all. Y'all know I love a good conversation about botrytis as much as the next person. I love a good talk of botrytis. I like to say botrytis. I actually like to say botrytis cinerea sometimes. Sometimes I like to get into a good botrytis paeonia talk. But again, I don't know if I want to lead a lot of conversations about problems. I don't know if I want to lead conversations about planting betulas about 45-degree angles. It feels very rigid to me still. It feels very like these are issues I would have talked about at the nursery. I don't know if I would talk about it in this way. And what I'm concerned about here is this is a place where people interact with gardening like first, right? They land here first at Gardener's World with Montague and, the box Nige. And he's talking a lot about the things that don't make gardening exciting. He's not talking about a lot of things that make gardening magical. He's talking about a lot of the stuff that's not that fun and not that interesting. And we're not even getting like the technical descriptions to avoid things like botrytis. So I'm a little confused, ultimately. And I have been confused on Gardener's World probably since around like 2013, 15, somewhere in there. And the tone of the show continues to be when Monty is on, it's Gardening 101, and when a guest is on who's like a National Trust person, we get more info. So I guess you'd say the show is a balance. But it's really, to me, there's moments on the show where I don't give a shit. And I'm just like, whatevs. And then there's moments where I'm like, okay, that's sort of cool. But it's a lot of whatevs, quite frankly. I don't think we need to talk about the problems of gardening first. I think we need to talk about what makes gardening magical first. And then once we get people hooked on that crack, then let's talk to them about botrytis cinerea. I don't think we say words like botrytis this quickly on a broadcast worldwide show that is the only broadcast worldwide show about gardening in the world. Now back to the show.
And I should have had more ventilation. If you do see mould in your greenhouses in winter, it almost always means that you're just not ventilating enough. However, it hasn't really...
I'm never ventilating enough. From this point on, I will never have ventilation. I'm going to close every room and have no airflow, ever.
Mitsuna. Again, best eaten when it's not too big. Good mustardy taste, as near to rocket as you get from a Japanese green. I'm very fond of that. That's good, so that adds to the mix. And the secret is, if you've got a greenhouse, use it all winter. Don't just think of it as somewhere to grow summer crops. A little bit of protection.
Is that a citrus plant?
A wide range of delicious
I think I saw a
crops
citrus plant cameo there.
Now, most of us have gardens outside our houses, but we went down to Kent to visit a gardener who has created his garden like a moat entirely surrounding his
We've been
house,
waiting for this.
without apparently any kind of path to be seen anywhere.
I like how he said it, apparently. It's a surprise.
Technically, yes, there is a path to my front door. There is stonework.
Oh, Trisha, I was going to build a moat here at Natchez Glen once. I thought about it, seriously. I may still do one.
The plethora.
Want to do one together? Let's do it on a stream. I'll build a moat. We'll build the whole castle.
And I love this garden.
Why do I know Andrew's name?
I'm never leaving.
I like Andrew's style. He's like, I love this garden and I'm never leaving. I'm just here, son.
I'm very conscious that I'm living in a field here. I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted to be surrounded by a certain amount of luxury, but in a Spartan fashion. But most important was simply...
I have to say, this speaks to me more at the moment than Jeffrey did in Jeffrey's garden.
It's a bit bonkers, clearly. I think of it as a living, breathing, pretty monster with which I'm surrounded.
I like this idea. I like all the plants we're seeing. We're seeing a tremendous amount of diversity.
Eryngium, Pandanifolium, Physic purple. It fits in.
I do follow him on Instagram, I believe. I have seen this plant and have wanted it for a minute.
To me, even though it's very tall, it makes perfect sense at the front because you've got this lovely basal foliage for most of the year. And then you just get this one shoot, at least in my case here, which is very easy to see around, but it adds texture at the very front of the border. It's the plant that everybody comments upon. There's really nothing not to like, I would say, about this oddball. Everyone told me that it would be financial suicide. I struggled to get a mortgage. Eventually, the transaction occurred. I got the keys, so I suddenly...
He's like, eventually people gave me money because they didn't see the vision, and eventually I convinced them to, and now it looks awesome. Don't those people look stupid now?
Was living in a barn with
Helianthus looks beautiful,
frames, which I hadn't entirely expected. You know, had to take that first winter sleeping on the floor with no hot water, just desperate to start digging the ground.
That's that one variety they grow. It's a lemon something. They grow it a lot in the UK. See, who doesn't like a person who has a garden before they have a kitchen?
This is a rather overwhelming character, I think. This is Populus deltoides purple tower. Ordinarily, it's a tree. I stool it every year. So, you know, I cut it off at the base and all of this...
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that.
There's something that's extremely attractive.
It's an American plant, by the way, too. Also interesting.
It's really a character, you know, next to this Leucanthemilla Ceratina, yet to flower, but very close. 6, 7.
This is a real plants person's garden, by the way. You can just tell. Passionate about plants. Dahlia right below him and doesn't care. Right? Dahlia right below him. Beautiful flower. We just saw it. Doesn't care. Purple towers is what we're into.
A rose by the name of Tottering Along Gently.
Oh, it's a David Austin.
Very, very soft, lovely, buttery yellow flowers. Flowers all season long from early summer. It's fading away now, but there are still blooms and they'll continue until the first frost. It's a stimulating concoction. It's a potpourri, and you know,
I do too, Trish. I like this. This is my vibe. I wish everyone would embrace this man's spirit. Just go.
And I had done so with gardens before. I put them down on paper. And for whatever reason, I felt the urge to do this spontaneously, instinctively. I had an idea of how the structure might grow. You know, I started with the trees and shrubs, and it spread out from there. I think in the 60s, there was this scientific experiment where somebody fed spiders various psychoactive, mind-altering compounds. My garden looked a lot like the web of the spider who'd taken LSD.
Okay, shout out to Gardener's World. You lost me with some of the stuffiness that Monty's been throwing, but a garden inspired by a spider that took LSD taking spiders, here for it.
love conifers. They strike me as maybe the most characterful plants in horticulture. They're like these eternal, timeless, grumpy old men. And maybe I see myself in them. And this is a wonderful example. I mean, I'm frankly sick of hearing how unfashionable they are. Who cares? This is Cryptomeria japonica.
This guy should host Gardener's World. This is better than the box Nige. That shit was just slightly depressing.
Rasen Sugi, which means twisted cedar.
It's a very pretty tree in person too, by the way. And you can shear them easily.
It's really vigorous. This one, been here probably 5 years. It was just one green stem of about that length when I planted it. And the entire stem is contorted. I get extremely hot under the collar visiting a conifer nursery. The variety is quite astonishing. I would like to picture the garden being in 10 years dominated actually by these great monsters. There are very many of them around.
That's awesome.
They'll take over and the garden will belong to them.
See, that in many ways though, that is the approach to take with gardening. There are plants, the garden will be theirs. There are plants, just like in a forest, right? So let's use Tennessee as an example. So right on this hillside, there are areas where Fagus grandiflora grows, right? American beech. And beneath the beech are podophyllum and trillium and dicentra, ferns. There's so many cool plants under them. But eventually, the beech keeps growing and becomes massive. And the other plants are moving away from it. The ecology changes underneath them. And then suddenly, boom, 30 years goes by. And a beautiful beech has taken over this area. And the others still there, but at distance. And in a garden setting, that distance might make them go away. But in nature, they try to find the space. But it's always that ebb and flow.
This garden's put me in touch with nature. It's put me in touch with the seasons.
We should follow him on Insta.
It's made me far more conscious of my surroundings, with light, with breeze, with sounds. I'm grounded here.
What was his name? Everybody forget. Maybe Monty will say
There was
it.
an occasion actually where my postman came. I was about to go on holiday for a week. I was a bit grumpy. My postman asked me, why the long face? And I explained, and his answer was, well, this is going to be here when you get back. But in truth, it's not going to be here when I get back in this current state because it's always changing.
One of the original thoughts of gardening was that gardens were about paradise and that you couldn't get to paradise on earth. Some of this comes out of a Central Asia kind of origin story. So you couldn't go to gardens or paradise while on earth. You could only do that while in heaven. So people adopted the idea of making paradise on earth, and those became gardens. And one of the thoughts of those gardens were they were so beautiful, you would never want to leave. It would be paradise, because every day there would be beauty and you wouldn't want to miss it, so you wouldn't leave it because it's paradise.
And so it will never be the same again, and, at the risk of sounding terribly dull, I don't want to miss it.
Beautiful anemone shot there. Oh, that anemone shot. Oh, it got
It's a
me.
sort of trap, but a trap which I'm willing to fall victim to.
I think it's Andrew, right?
I'm not
I want
leaving.
to see.
what Andrew's garden shows, apart from being very beautiful, is that a garden can, and for many of us is, absolutely central to our idea of home. Now this is a purple hazel, Corylus maxima purple.
I got a feel. I didn't think that had enough reference in it. I understand we got a show and we got to be at 59 minutes and, you know, cut to the quick and all that shit that some person would say to you on, you know, a podcast review. But I really think Montague there needed to hit some other points. I didn't walk away from seeing that segment with Andrew and the word home didn't come to my mind. He didn't want to miss it, his passion. I've noticed in this episode, there's been a lot of Conifer love, but Montague has not mentioned his disdain over the years. Do you guys remember on the stream not too long ago where Amy was really wrong about epimediums? It's okay. You can be wrong about things. I've had opinions on plants that changed. The only plant who I have not changed my opinion on ever, and it would just take monumental changing for that, is Bermuda grass. Bermuda grass is the one thing that I'm like, yeah, Bermuda grass just stinks. Like, unequivocally. I want to follow that guy on Insta. Let's see. Can we go back? Hold on. Let's go back. We got to follow this guy. Let's see if he's on the Instagram. I feel like he was. He sounded like a garden designer. They didn't really hit that, so I don't really know. Let's see. There's a 48, 47. Here we go. Let's see.
I think of it as a...
Go back a little further here. Let's see. We got to get this. We got to get this guy. There's the beginning of the segment. So let's go there. Yeah, Trish, maybe. But, you know, I mean, I don't know. Then don't give a, you know, let it. I mean, it's pretty fucking cool what the guy did. I mean, that's a really good idea. I mean, that's what people should be doing, is that's just reverse the thought. Foundation is a foundation. Let's hardscape. And then the garden is there. If we just, and to me, that's the other thing Monty should have hit. Because that is happening in Europe, by the way, too. That same concept. It's not unique to the United States. That's almost around the world. The foundation planting, then the sidewalk. My house has the exact same stupid shit, by the way. I could walk you out here at Natchez Glen. House, planting area, sidewalk. Why? House, sidewalk, planting area. But that change could revolutionize gardening across the world. Just that thinking change. I think that's much more important than home.
Houses.
Let's see.
But we went down to Kent to visit a gardener who has created his garden like a moat, entirely surrounding his house, without apparently any kind of path to be seen anywhere.
Technically, yes, there is a path to my front door. There is stonework.
They didn't put a graphic up, I don't think.
It's just hidden. Nobody can
As
see
it should be.
Least of all, the plethora of Kentish delivery men. My name's Andrew Salter.
Salter, probably with an A. Hold on, we got it. Isn't that usually the pronunciation that the British use? Like Salter is like S-A-L-T-E-R. How did y'all hear that? Let's search for this person. Yes, this has been the thought for generations. Yeah, exactly, Trish. Like the thought of this has been around. You know, William Robinson wrote about this in the 1800s. Thank you, Trish. I think you got it. Ooh, Andrew Salter Studios, maybe? No, that's another guy. Hold on. I don't even see this guy. Maybe he's not. Is he not on social media? Let's see. Let's try another spelling here. He said Kent. I see a lot with the A spelling. There's a person. We'll see all results. We really need to find this person. There are a lot of Andrew Salters, but I don't see a lot of Andrew Salters. Damn, y'all. We're going to have to find this guy. We got to make friends with him. This seems like a kind of person we'd be friends with. Can we all agree this? We need to invite this guy over to Natchez Glen. He said Kent. We got some clues. We'll get some clues. We'll get the CIA on it. We'll get Jeffrey on it. He's done being James Bond. They couldn't tell us any more about him. He's got a mysterious past. People wanted to ask, Jeffrey, what have you been up to? How long have you been doing this? But then Jeffrey said, I would tell you, but then I'd have to kill you with one of these conifers. What's up, Dylan? What's up? What's up? We got to find out, Jude. I mean, this is ridiculous. Let's get back. Okay, we got to step ahead. Where are we back to? Montague saying some shit about something boring. I mean, I'm sorry. I have a Corylus out there. It's got red leaf. It's Rut Zettler. Yada, yada, yada. But I'm sorry, Andrew's Garden was more exciting than this. More time for that. Less time for this.
In that 5 years, it grows really quite big, like a tree with 5 or 6 stems and these wonderful, rich purple leaves. But when it reaches a certain height, it does shade out the other plants here in the Jewel Garden. And so we coppice it, because by cutting it down every 5 or 6 years and getting regrowth, that encourages much bigger than normal leaves. And you can do it with Paulownia, Catalpa, you can do it with willow or dogwood, and hazel works very well.
We saw that with the lady earlier, Elizabeth, I think her name was, with the salix.
But what's left behind are these shoots. I will now prune out all but about half a dozen of them. And very quickly, in about 3 years, they will get substantial, and then in 5 or 6 years' time, I'll cut these back too. Right, this is a job that I like to take my time on because I want to get it right. So while I'm doing this, here's some jobs you can be doing this weekend.
Okay, they've been doing this forever. The jobs you could do this weekend, jobs to get done deal. I mean, I don't know, man. It's a little rigid for my like, but I'll let it go.
If you haven't done so already, it's time to sow your sweet peas to give them a fighting chance to develop into good, strong plants. A pot is ideal. I sow 3 seeds for every 3-inch pot. Use a normal peat-free compost.
Peat-free! Peat-free! We're going to put vodka in that soon or something.
Press the seeds lightly in, cover them over, water them, and put them somewhere warm to germinate.
Monty's, he used to label the seeds in botanical nomenclature, right? He used to put the taxonomy in the seeds. Now, nada. Now he's like, nah, they're just called sweet peas Royal Night. It's sweet peas Royal Night. What? You can do that on television still? You can chit potatoes? Damn. I didn't even know you could chit potatoes. I thought you had to do that on like OnlyFans or something. I didn't even know. I would have been chitting potatoes on streams and on Instagram for the last years. I would have just chitted all over myself.
Although for most of us the soil is too cold for planting potatoes, now is the time to buy seed potatoes and chit them. Take them out of their bag and place them on a seed tray or an egg box, and then put this in a frost-free
Charlotte.
Like a windowsill.
Bet Charlotte is going to get chitted.
Knobbly, dark shoots.
Dark.
And then when you do plant them, when the soil warms up, this will encourage them to grow quicker, and therefore you can harvest them sooner. It's time to prune late flowering or group 3 clematis.
Oh, it's Viticella.
They produce these flowers on new growth. So cut back all last year's growth down to the bottom bud. It seems drastic, but this will stimulate new shoots.
Stimulate me,
this
baby.
year's display.
Now we have to get serious again. The fun time is over.
We've got
Jobs for the
changes
weekend is the fun.
planned for this year, and in fact we've been making changes over winter. The biggest here in the damp garden. We've taken up the stone paving, replaced it with a curving path, and made some new beds. There's a new one in the corner here, which will be perfect for hostas and...
Okay. Does that dog not have feet? I mean, y'all help me. That dog not have paws? I mean, that dog's getting carried around in baskets. And now the dog is literally getting carried around in his hands. This is not a great gardening dog. I mean, have you ever gardened? I have. You're usually carrying around plants, you got sharp objects. I usually, most of the day, have a sharp object that I could get arrested in an airport for having. I'm not carrying around my dog with all that. I mean, that's just, you can't carry swords and dogs at the same time. It just feels overly aggressive.
ferns. Very shaded, but we'll keep it damp, and that's perfect. And along the edge, a narrow bed, and I want to focus on...
So when I saw this last, this pond was, I think we were calling it the natural garden, and now we're calling it the damp garden. So I think this is the same thing. My Gardener's World is like a strong pre-2020 Gardener's World. So 2020, 2021, no knowledge of really. Prior to that, I'm down. I remembered this as he was trying to attract wildlife, which I never understood when he was doing it. It was one of the things that actually made me stop watching the show, was they put in this pond and he was like, this is how you get nature. You put in a pond. And I was like, no, you get nature by just doing natural things. You don't have to do a pond. Like, it just felt like you were telling people, if you want to get it like frogs, you got to have a pond. And it's like, no, you can just have a cute little garden. Shit will show up. They figure it out. We overthink it. We got too much ego. We're like, we have to put out like it's like the way we flavor dog food, as if dogs want to eat grilled salmon. No. They're just like, what do you got? Same thing with gardens.
On candelabra primulas. I love those, and that would be a really good way of displaying them. But the biggest change by far is at the back of the pond, because...
Now, Nell has just got a look. Nell's got a look. She is like, why does the little dog get carried and I have to walk?
There, I've started to make a bog garden. Now, if you're not quite sure what a bog garden is or how to make one...
Trisha? Hey, Trish. You there? Yeah, it's Steve. I think Montague is starting a bog garden so he can yell at people for using peat, because peat comes from bogs. I think Monty is going to teach us the value of bogs by creating a bog garden. So will this mean that every time someone uses peat moss, Montague's bog garden will be a reminder to us all that you're ruining the world and stop?
I'm afraid you're going to have to wait for the first installment of that exciting adventure till next week, because we've run out of time today. So till next Friday, bye-bye.
I would like to pause and pay homage to the best part of the show. Jerry Dawson, Tim Jones, Gary Hockey, Mahali Moore, and Paul Stas. I would like to thank these folks for their superior cinematography in this episode of Gardener's World. I was a little upset Carol was not on this episode. I appreciate Monty. I don't think it was a great episode for Monty. I think we're struggling at the beginning of season 1. I thought Adam missed a huge opportunity to reveal to us all how Jeffrey was the original James Bond, and the entire series of books was written based upon this Jeffrey character. And I would like to say that I thought Francis did a nice job, although in some of those cutaways were a little awkward. I would like to say that. Sound is always great on this show. Underrated. The way they get in those fake bird sounds. I mean, whoever's doing the edit on this show, they got a catalog of sounds. I feel they're out there with a boom mic. They're capturing the sound of roses rustling. And then they're like, ooh, the second they can find that audio of rustling roses, they got it. They're like, and boom, into the show goes Rustling Roses. That was good. That part was good. Whoever did the colorist, Tim Bolt, he's got a tough job. Because Tim probably wants to color the shit out of this stuff. Tim's like, I can make everything blue that was originally pink. And they're like, nah, Tim. We're supposed to make it look beautiful but natural. So just make it beautiful but not fake beautiful, Tim. And I think he does a great job of it. The facilities are run by Gorilla. I don't even know what that means. The runner, so Rosanna Escobar Byrne, we need a runner, okay, at Natchez Glen. We need a runner for sure. So maybe we could reach out to her on socials. Maybe see if she wants to take the tent opportunity. We'll also, maybe we'll find these other people on socials and we'll offer them the tent opportunity. And we'll say that you can live here rent-free at Natchez Glen. I mean, have you seen rent these days? I mean, with Joe Trump as president, I mean, look at this. Look, I'm going to tell y'all. So I just recently, I was looking to live over in the UK for a couple of months, and I did the conversions. Hold on. So this is the conversions. I was looking for a one-bedroom apartment in London, and this is what I found. It was 1.4 million pounds per month. So by my calculations, that's almost like $2 million US. And the way people are saying this about Joe Trump, I don't think anything's changing. So even in the UK, Joe Trump's reach knows no bounds. So we might have some success offering all of these people rent-free living at Natchez Glen. I mean, all to set them up. I mean, one of them could live inside Acer Palmatum, Boss Coupe Glory. We'll put a tent on it. I mean, I already offered a tent. No, I mean, it may be a tarp with like a wood stick in the middle. I mean, it's a tent shape. Yeah, Trisha's got a tent. Now Trisha, don't get crazy, okay? We don't need the metal supports. I mean, just take the cloth part, and just jam it in one of those free USPS boxes, put a bunch of tape on it, and just send it, okay? I'll compensate you that money. Then I have a lot of wood sticks, and I'll just wood stick it, I mean, if that's what 1.4, the place I saw that was 1.4 million pounds a month, that place was, it was made out of like canvas or something. I think it wasn't a plastic tarp, but it was like an old school canvas tarp that was like real heavy and nice. So maybe that's why it was 1.4 mils, but it didn't make sense to me personally. I'll be real, it just didn't. So I really strongly feel that we could probably win with this whole thing very easily. That was a lot of fun. We watched Montague together. We should do this all the time. We'll make like a particular day of the week where we watch Gardener's World together. You have Trish. Trish, have you thought about opening up an Airbnb anywhere on your property? You could think of the money opportunities you're missing, Trish. You could have strangers living under your tarp, okay? Your flax-colored linen tarp, right? And they could be paying you $1.4 million a month for this Airbnb. I mean, you're really missing out on financials. I don't want to tell you what to do with your life, but having strangers live on your property in a tent made out of linen tarps with a stick in the middle, Gary Vaynerchuk tells me it'll bring me happiness. So, I mean, I've been knee deep in the linen tarp Airbnb host business for, minutes now. Minutes. It's just become a real passion of mine, and I'm trying to follow all of my life passions while also monetizing every one of them in a way that feels both slightly exploitive and slightly corrupt. But I've landed very nicely in that space, and I just feel like you're missing that opportunity to join me, Trish, especially with this linen tarp flex that you have at your disposal. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So the next episode we watch, we'll start doing it in the evening, I think. I'll promote it a little bit more. I wanted to just see if we got the technicals of this down. I think we did. I think the sound was good the whole time. I think the visuals worked. So we will definitely do this for episode 2. I mean, who knows what's next? I mean, there's a bog garden coming. I mean, I can't wait to get, made to be castigated based upon my use of peat. I mean, there's nothing that I like better than going on my computer and watching a guy in an unseasonably heavy jacket tell me how I'm evil for destroying bogs all across Northern Europe. I mean, it's really one of the joys of my life. Let's not forget, let's not forget this either. I think we let this maybe go by too quickly, was when Montague was showing us, here it was. I think this is the scene where he did it. Yup, this is it. Okay, this is the Botrytis reveal. Yeah, there it is. I mean, I think we also just noticed that despite Montague's hate of peat moss, that one thing he doesn't have a hate on is Botrytis. I mean, he's okay with it. He's got it himself. He's slightly self-deprecating on it. He's like, it's my fault. Dylan, I'm going to create a peat bog. Like, I'm just going to get, okay, so here's what we could do. Okay. So here's what we could do, y'all. So what we could do is hold on, I just wanted to show this for reference, right? Just so you can see it. So what we could do is we could create a peat bog. Okay, so that would just mean we get a bunch of peat moss. We're talking like literally pallets full of peat, right? We put all the pallets out. We open all the baggies and we wet the shit out of it. We're just like water everywhere. Hoses are flying, like stuff's happening. It's just a lot of action, right? Then what we do is we plant shit in it. And then it will like grow slightly weirdly because there'll be like no like nutrient value in it whatsoever. Whole other subject. But that would be awesome. The other thing we could do, have you ever grown Iris pseudocharis? It's a water bog plant. That Iris versicolor, purple flame, we could put that thing in peat moss. We could create a whole bog. And we would then encourage the use of peat. We would be like, everyone's creating bog gardens now. It's beautiful. People are using peat from all over the world. All of the peat is being used. I'm a little upset that in this episode, when Montague shared this moment with us, when he was down on his knees, it wasn't that one. Hold on, it was this one. It was after this. It was after the jobs for the weekend. This part, right here. Oh, by the way, look at poor Nell. Look at the way she looks here. I mean, it's just... Look, it's just the moment. You got to really catch it. I mean, the look in poor Nell's eyes. Poor Nell is like, why is the little dog not walking still? I'm just confused. I don't even know what happened. Right there. Right there. That's the moment. The little dog's being carried. Poor Nell is just like, oh, jeez, I miss Nigel. Do you think Nell is confused by the topiary of Nigel? I mean, there's a joke that I could use, about dogs and the way they, use the restroom outside. Just saying. But this bog garden has really got my attention. I'm very excited to see where we go with the bog garden. I would have liked Montague to maybe be a little bit more like on the money here and be like, yeah, I'm making this garden so I can yell at y'all for your use of peat moss. I do wish we would have had a little bit of that in there maybe at the very beginning. That's it. But it's very much... Listen, Monty was on here the whole time, guys. He didn't use the restroom once. Okay? While he was streaming, this whole hour Montague was streaming, he didn't use the restroom once. Just going to say that for the record. Montague, for the 59 minutes we watched him on stream, he did not use the restroom. Please don't tell me that any of that is pre-produced. I would like to imagine in my mind that Montague was just streaming live with us for 59 minutes. I know there was a lot of production value, but I'm just thinking they figured it out. Okay? So, I don't know.
Perfect.
Overall, I think this episode was,
but we keep it damp, and that's perfect.
I thought it was just okay. I mean, the highlight definitely was back here. The cyclamen, this was the highlight, for sure. There's Francis. These were beautiful. We didn't really quite learn why Montague believes that the one cyclamen just completely dominates the other. That's still a bit of a mystery. Monty threw that out there. There was no follow-up. It's okay. But this, I thought, was one of the best parts of the show, for sure. The cyclamen was the highlight. Then, of the plant talk, then our guy Andrew over here, Andrew Salter, this was great. He had it down. He was just like, he had it. There was something there for Monty to pick up, and Monty didn't pick up on it. It's okay. These things happen. Monty's, he's slipping a little. I'll be real. He's spending too much time with those boxwoods. I mean, you start pruning a boxwood hedge to look like one of your dogs. Some people would say that maybe you've been distracted by other life pursuits. That maybe you're living in grief. Maybe. Some people would say that. This, I thought, was an underrated moment in the show. Him using an American, by the way, Populus deltoides, which is an American native plant, cottonwood. You see it all through the southern United States, eastern half. Great plant. There are cultivated varieties of it, aka Purple Tower. And the way he is cutting it back every year, you can do with a ton of plants. There's so many great applications. At the nursery, we used to do this really effectively with Hydrangea paniculata. So we would grow the Hydrangea paniculata, very similar to what you see over, where were her salix? They were just at the beginning of this. I got to find there they are. We saw these salix in the cyclamen garden that they visited, and it's the exact same concept. And you just allow them to come up, then cut hard, cut hard, cut hard. And you do it typically in the winter period. Right here is the shot I was talking about. Boom, right there. So that whole alley is essentially that same thing that Monty was talking about with, Corylus that he planted. So you allow the tree to come up a little. You allow it to get some structure to it. You want to try to keep it single trunked if you can. Here it's a little bit low, but I think the irregularity actually looks great. So allow them to get up. Then, once it's up, you start to cut back, cut back, cut back. The way we would do it at the nursery is we'd work it over 3 years. So we're not cutting back hard all at once. We're cutting back a little, we're cutting back a little, we're cutting back a little, and it allows the plant to put a lot of energy into that trunk, like what you're seeing here. Then, at the end, once that shape is there, it just becomes an annual cutback. But it can take, a plant like this considering we knew the gardener here too. She was, so brilliant with the cyclamen. This is a project, what we're seeing with those salix, in this case, willows, those are every bit of 30-year-old trees. It can take a long time to get to a place like this with certain species of trees. Salix is a pretty good one to do it with because of their speed and growth. Quite honestly, even something like the populus would be good, the cottonwood, because they do grow pretty fast. Acer palmatum, I've actually seen this done with in a pretty cool way. That was pretty unique. You see it a lot with Catinus, the smoke bush plant, because people like to have those plumes, and you can set them because they're new growth, the plumes. So when you do it really tight like this, when they push, it's very big explosion of color and flower and all that on the big, like Grace. Where are some of the other good Catinus? There's several something fog. There's one fog. It's very pretty. Good flowering one. Yeah, exactly, Trisha. You can do it on fruit trees too. I know my man Dylan is working on Fire Kid music with Heidi. They're working together on putting together an espalier. So espalier is a different form of training, but the same concepts sort of apply. You're trying to get the plant to have limited branching, but heavy foliage, flower, or fruit. That's really the concept of both of them. This is the same thing. And the nice thing about this, if you can achieve it over that time period, is you get this beautiful color display. You could do the same thing with Cornus alba, which at first I actually thought these were Cornus alba or Sangokaku, the Acer palmatum. I've seen it done with Sangokaku, by the way, because the new growth is vivid orange. So doing it like this, same thing with this Salix, you get the same effect. Slower to do on Acer palmatum. That's like a 20, 40-year project. Salix, like I said, I think you could get to something close to this in about 10 years, and it would really, as the garden established like these, like I said, 30 years is probably well within reason to think of how long they've been doing that. And it does create that beautiful display, and it's a nice way to add a tree to a garden, but without the scale issues that so many trees have. When I was running the nursery, people would always say things to me like, what do you have that gets to be 10 feet? And I'm like, nothing. We don't have any tree on earth that grows to 10 feet tall and stops. That is called doesn't exist. What we do have are infinite amount of plants that you can get to a size and then get it where it stays comfortably for some period at 10 feet. We can do that, but that's going to involve you doing something. The plant wants to be as big as the plant can be. The plant is Kendrick Lamar. That's what the plant is. There's as big of an Eiffel Tower there. I'll let you guys find the reference out there. Yeah, but a pretty good episode. I mean, I thought for sure the cyclamen, that was awesome. Andrew was great. I thought this was really, really good. The fact that he stood by that dahlia and did not get distracted and talked about that cottonwood, I thought was really the highlight. Weakness of the show, it was right in here. The Verbena boreensis, the seed sowing, I mean, it's just, we get it. We get it. This is how you sow seeds. Also, too, like, I guess we're going to do this as a grow-along situation. There's actually a couple of UK Instagram accounts that are pretty popular, and they do this as like a grow-along concept where like people buy the plants and grow them with them. So maybe that's what they're inspired by here, is this thought of like you'll grow Verbena boreensis with Monty, and y'all will have conversations throughout the course of the growing season about Verbena boreensis. The show also is still distinctly UK, both in content and in tone. And I would say there's great things about that, but this is another moment where like Verbena boreensis is a plant that's been used in the UK as like this semi-tender perennial for decades and decades, and you barely ever see it in American gardens. Rebecca Goldstrom you see a lot in this country. But, just these contrasts that you definitely see, and if you're not real familiar with gardening, I could see this being maybe a little like, well, this is not how I garden as much. That's weird. So I could see people's frustration with that just a tad. But we'll see what happens next episode. I'll set a date and time. Oh, yeah, no, Trisha, the show's imagery is next level. I mean, the original years that I was interested in Gardener's World, I actually thought about buying the camera that they shoot the show on simply because of how beautifully visually it is. We're going to do stuff here with the show when we start it in a couple of weeks that I think is going to get us pretty close, quite honestly, visually, to what we see on Gardener's World. So as we raise the visuals of what I'm doing here, what I want us to maintain is, yeah, plants and gardens are beautiful, and let's bring that with like a reverential vibe, and let's let that be warm and fuzzy and breathe, but let's also have some fun with this shit. Let's also not talk about 45-degree angles so much, and let's sort of shift the conversation of where it was at, right? Let's shift that conversation and have it be the fundamentals of plants are easy, and you can do them and you can learn them, and all of the things that make gardening and horticulture in this world so fascinating, you can completely do. But let's also have it where it's got a little bit of fun to it, and it doesn't feel maybe as stuffy as some of what was delivered here, I've got to say. I didn't think Monty did a great job with that. Yeah, thank you, by the way, Jeremy. So, I used to get it when they did an E1 for a while. I think the magazine is better. I spoke at the beginning of this, Jeremy. I think Gardener's World has become a little too 101. What I used to like was when, now Hypno, that magazine is probably more entertaining reading. I mean, what's up, Hypno? Good to see you. I think it probably is more entertaining, if we're being quite honest. But when we look back at like these episodes, like here's the one with Adam, I think this, to me, was a little bit more of my concern. Like, we're not really given anything here about Jeffrey. Like, we're seeing Adam walk around the bamboo, but we're not really talking about what bamboo it is. Like, Adam makes a comment about how bamboo is invasive. And there are bamboo species that are invasive. They run, it's the whole vibe, man. But there are clumping bamboo species. I'd be curious, which one did Jeffrey use? How long has Jeffrey been gardening here? Was Jeffrey an avid gardener when he started this? It sort of sounded like he liked the Pinus sylvestris that were around the home. So clearly he had an awareness that big-ass conifers existed. Was that it? I don't know. But I thought that was better. I thought it was much more interesting over here in the cyclamen because we actually heard more from the gardener. And maybe that was an editor's decision, a producer's decision. Maybe Jeffrey was, maybe Jeffrey wasn't as, talkative. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I do know that I think one of the most interesting things about gardens are typically the people that make them. And learning as much as we can about the people that make them is always a fun, interesting thing, as much as anything. I've always wondered over the years, when we see somebody like Andrew, same vibe. Is this a person that grew up with plants, didn't grow up with plants, loved them his whole life, came to them at another time? I think all that kind of information is interesting in a garden setting. I am not a fan, and I have to just put this out there, of the new box or laurels that are in there. This was very nice too. I thought that was very nice to see a younger person gardening. I was saddened by seeing a younger person talk about how, maybe some older people would talk some shit. That's not good. Where were they? Where was the box row? There was Adam. It was somewhere in here, in this general vicinity. But I did not like the cones. The cones have replaced the balls, and I was against that. Camellias were awesome, but, camellias. Camellias. It's just camellias. I'll leave it at that. All right, y'all. Ton of fun. Again, we'll set a date for this, and let's just do it all year. We'll catch up with where they were at, and then we'll go... Exactly, Trish. They were like, Jeffrey just had someone deliver a message that say if we put that part on the air where he talked in a vulnerable way, he would come and assassinate us all while we sleep. Oh, then we should probably take that out. You think so? I think so. Let's do this every week. We'll promote it. I'll talk about it. That was fun. We'll talk soon.